So it would really seem that these like alien invader type personalities are hanging on by a thread. And it's like the I would say spiritual warfare, but it's mostly just like fascinating entertainment. They're all coming out and they're all like saying the same things. So they're like stating facts and it's supposed to be somehow an insult. So like be careful of this because people will literally come out and just state facts. Crazy white Christian bitch. You said I was dangerous. You wondered where I got my money from. Like, as if this is an insult. Stating facts. It's like they're attacking, but they're just stating facts. And it's not for us to like paint ourselves against them, but just be honest and say, like, you are actually just stating facts. Like, that's all you're doing. Yes, I am a crazy white Christian bitch. Yes, I do drink alcohol every night because I have no purpose. Because the man has discarded the woman as his helper, and now I have no purpose, and he's going out getting Chipotle and watching porn every night. The man has discarded, and I'm not mad about it. I'm definitely not mad about it. There's my hair is falling out. Not like I'm going bald. I just had it up for a couple days. Um they are literally stating facts about what is actually happening and it's like these people are hanging on by a thread. So they're attacking and it's weird because the attack isn't even an attack. It's like you're literally just stating facts. Yes, I am a crazy white Christian bitch, 100%. Yeah, I did stir the pot, 100%. They say it as if it's a bad thing. You stirred the pot. You fucked with us. I did fuck with you. I did stir the pot, 100%. And what I stirred the pot with is turning out to be true because they don't understand that, like, we're not here alone. We do have a greater military that works anonymously. The Holy Spirit works in its own magical ways. Like, yeah, we do have abilities to find out who and what exactly you are. I've been saying this for years that Joe Rogan is literally Aleister Crowley. I used to go out in front of Joe Rogan's comedy uh business and with a sign saying he's literally Aleister Crowley and nobody ever denied it. And back in the day, this was like 2021. I think I protested in like 2023, but you could Google Joe Rogan tattoos and it was like him like a demon. And I'm like, all these people know that he's actually Aleister Crowley. So, like, it's an operation of secrecy. This is like a mission of secrecy. So, when Brian's saying, this full disclosure conference person was like, you keep making all this stuff up about me. And I'm like, well, what are you saying that I'm making up? Because I'm saying you're a Mossad agent. And he doesn't come back and deny it. So what I'm saying is, I believe you're a Mossad agent. And then he doesn't want to address that accusation. He wants to address another accusation about where I was like, where did he get his money from? And then he shares where he got his money from. Whether it's true or not, it's like, I asked and then you said. But the accusations, he's like, you just keep talking shit. Talking shit. If I was talking shit, it would be a lie. So, what they're not doing consistently throughout the years is they're not denying anything. Like Miles Johnston, Bob Osborne, they never denied being a Mossad agent. Like, nobody is denying my claims. They just keep attacking me about my claims. And I'm saying, yes, I think that these claims are true. Even with that evil witch SRA, she's like, you think I'm a dangerous person? And I'm like, yep, I do think you're a dangerous person. Like, where's the argument? Where's the argument? So these aren't the worst people ever because they're not actually lying in the sense that you make an accusation and they're not denying it. That's our kind of language that we share. So these people are hanging on by a thread and like in my optimism, I do think that like there is some kind of benevolence in evil and doing wickedness. When somebody on TikTok had made a video saying Joe Rogan is literally Aleister Crowley, and it got like it got 14,000 likes. It got 200,000 views and 14,000 likes. Joe Rogan is Aleister Crowley. I've been saying this for years. I stood outside of Comedy Mothership, his comedy club, with a sign that said, Joe Rogan is literally Aleister Crowley, and nobody denied it. And virtually nobody attacked me. If the attack comes in the form of, you said Joe Rogan is Aleister Crowley, I'm like, yeah, 100%. That's what I said, because that's what I think, because that's what I believe is true. And nobody in the 2021 minus 2025, nobody in the 5 years has ever denied it. And then this gentleman comes out on TikTok saying this, and it's got 14,000 likes because it's so obviously the case. It's so obviously true. And meanwhile, I've been sitting here like this past week and I'm really feeling, and because I'm like listening to this podcast on Scientology, and this gentleman who's coming out of Scientology, exposing Scientology, he said their main headquarters is Clearwater, Florida, which Veronica Bartolini told me, because the guy just said Central Florida, but Veronica Bertolini was like, no, it's Clearwater. It's Clearwater, Florida, which is right next to St. Petersburg, which is where we just all were for this conference. It's Clearwater, Florida, and West Sussex, England, Copenhagen, Denmark, and then what's the other one? LA, Los Angeles. So, it's weird because after I heard this, I'm like, I just can't help, because I was around Miles Johnson, and I'm like, he does have this like really big presence, like some kind of like misplaced arrogance. And I don't think he's like the worst person ever, but I'm like, he really does have like this big presence. So, like, who in the world is Miles Johnston? And I'd been thinking all week long, I'm like, I really do, as I'm like researching Scientology and listening to this podcast about Scientology, and he lives in West Sussex. I'm like, I really do think that L. Ron Hubbard, like Miles Johnson of the Basis Project, is like the reappearance of L. Ron Hubbard. Now, this is very important because in the mid 40s, there's an event that took place that all the people that care to know about what happened to our world, how it fell to such the degree that it fell to, they care to know. They remember that there wasn't a historical event with L. Ron Hubbard, which was the creator of Scientology, who likely got his inspiration from Mormonism, Mormons, and Jack Parsons, who is supposed to be quote unquote like a rocket engineer, and then Aleister Crowley, who is like the major influencer for dark magic, and even Bob Osborne, who is now handling James Casbolt, is in Zenor. He bought the Aleister Crowley house. Bob Osborne bought the Aleister Crowley compound. That's where he lives. That's where James Casbolt has been hanging out, at the Aleister Crowley compound in Zenor in Cornwall. So this massive event where these men, three of them, had they did all this like ritual magic, technology, witchcraft, whatever, allowed all these demons to come into our world to basically gobble up all the people who are weak-willed, weak-minded, and unfortunately deceived. So that happened. A lot of us remember this as a historical event between these three men. And in my life, the way I operate, I'm like, they have to still be alive today. And I know Joe Rogan is Aleister Crowley. And I had been feeling like, gosh dang, like it seems like Miles Johnson really is the reappearance of L. Ron Hubbard. And he lives in West Sussex, England, which is where this other gentleman said West Sussex is one of the 4 placements of the major Scientology camps. And we were all just in Central Florida, Clearwater, Florida, right near Clearwater, Florida, which was one of them. Now, I go and Google Jack Parsons. Who is Jack Parsons? And I'm looking up his face and I'm studying his face, because when people reincarnate, they look very similar to the way they used to look. Lucas Alexander from Age of Truth TV. Now, I was in very close proximity with Lucas Alexander for a few hours, and I wouldn't like again, I wouldn't say he's the worst person ever, but I did feel like this is not just a podcaster. He's not just a podcaster. I could feel that there's a presence to Lucas Alexander. He happens to live in Copenhagen, Denmark, which is where one of the 4 placements of the major Scientology headquarters. So I look up Jack Parsons and then I'm immediately like, he looks just like Lucas Alexander. So these 3 men with this Scientology, with this like technology, let in all these demons, and then it's like an end times ritual. So I believe that like Crowley magic, it's like people that want to bring in the end times. So it's no wonder when the floods hit in Texas, the first responders are seemingly Crowley followers. It's Crowley followers because they're the ones that are praying in the end times. They're the ones praying for the disasters. They're praying for the end times. They're the ones that are back in 1940s let in all these demonic entities to gobble up, to fast forward this agenda. At least this is me and my optimism. I know that they don't win. I know that they don't like win. But I think you got to be more creative because it's not like a win-lose. It's like a you go this way or you go that way. So they've opened up this timeline where eventually people go that way. They go that way. And the first responders to these major natural disasters are generally families and businesses who are involved in Crowley magic. And I'm familiar with Crowley magic because of my experience with the beer brewing industry. I was the original beer conspiracist. I came out and said back in 2020 that all these beer breweries are actually dark occultists. They're all dark occultists. This is all Satanism. They are all like NSA, CIA hiding behind the beer brewing industry. And they put a lot of the symbolism on their bottles so that people can become aware of it also. And this is like Crowley magic. Bob Osborne buys the Crowley house. And then Miles Johnson is always talking about beer, where to get the best beer, where the cheapest beer. He's obsessed with beer. It's like this whole thing where they're all connected. So it was like a gift that was given to me tonight because the more you become a troublemaker, the more you push the timeline forward, it seems as if you get rewards. And the reward I got tonight was I finally figured out the trinity of these people: Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and Aleister Crowley. I've always known Aleister Crowley was Joe Rogan since 2021. And this week I was suspecting that Miles Johnson is actually the reappearance of L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology. These are very abusive people. I'm not saying they're the worst people ever, but they are abusive. And then when I look up Jack Parsons, I'm like, this dude looks exactly like Lucas Alexander, who is, the creator of Age of Truth TV. They're all at these major Scientology headquarters. It all makes sense to me. So it's not like we hate these people, but they are acting out. God's like, they're on their last leg. Like this is their last stand. Like this is their final harvest. Like these are their final moments to collect their harvest. It's your final warning to figure out like where you stand. So I was brought to Church of Philadelphia. Now I'm going to make the synagogue of Satan those who profess to be Jews but are liars, because they are no such thing. I will make them come and fall at your feet and admit that you are the people that I love. Because you have kept my commandments and endure the trials, I will keep you safe in the time of trial, which is going to come for the whole world, to test the people of the world. And then soon I shall be with you. So it's funny, it's weird. It's like I'm getting like quote unquote attacked, but to me, it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like people are just like stating facts and I'm just saying, yep, 100%. It's like they're just coming to me stating facts about what I'm doing and who I am and what's going on. Like not in truth, in lies, but the lies are in the nonverbal ways that they confirm my accusations. So I make a lot of accusations. I've made a lot of accusations for many years. And the truth comes in the nonverbal confirmation of those accusations. They will say, "You said this about me." And I said, "Yep, 100%. That's what I said." And then they don't deny it. And then they don't deny it. And then they don't deny it. And then judgment comes upon the useful idiots around them. It doesn't actually come to them themselves. See, there are a lot of antichrists in the world who do whack stuff, and their harvest are all the people around them. Even with my Muslim boyfriend, we were hanging out a couple weekends ago, and the topic of AI came up, and that's my subject, right? That's like, I'm an expert in AI. I understand AI and exactly what it is and what it's doing. And then he takes over the conversation and he's like babbling some nonsense about the opposite of what AI is. He just starts saying that, like, no, AI is not actually collecting data from anyone to get smarter. And I look at him and I'm like, what the? I'm like looking at him like, what are you doing? And he just winks at me because he's like, these idiots, what he's saying is these idiots don't want to hear the truth. So now I know that my boyfriend, being this little antichrist, is not actually their friends. They think he's their friends and he's not. The antichrist men are just people that are here to collect a harvest. They are just here to lie and to do whack stuff and to have these conferences and to gobble up SRA and to gobble up weak-minded people because that's their job. That's what they do. That's what they've always done. That's what they've been doing since the mid 40s. In fact, even after the Romanov family fell, in a sense, we can't fall, it's not possible, but influentially wise, with influence, they kind of like fell. They're the most popular and the only mystic of the day was um Steinbeck. Who was it? Stein Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner was like the only mystic back in the day. So right after the family fell, Rudolf Steiner was like the mystic that everyone went to because we didn't have the internet. So he was like the mystic that everyone went to in the early 20s. Now all these teachers were going to Rudolf Steiner because they're like, how come these children are so evil? All these teachers in the 20s were going to Rudolf Steiner looking for answers because they're like, our students are like getting dark. They're very evil children. They're very demonic, and they're concerned because people might have thought that they were crazy, but they were like, we need to find a mystic. They were going to him separately. All these teachers were going to Rudolf Steiner, the popular mystic of their day, was going to him separately, asking him, why are these children so dark and demonic? Because when the Romanov family, their influence was taken away, it opened up a portal where all this demonic influence has been allowed to come in. So Rudolf Steiner was like, they are demonic because something weird happened when you kill the divine family. When you kill the divine family, when you remove the divine, the divinity off the planet, then it does allow for a lot of demonic entities to come in. So they've been coming in, and then Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and Aleister Crowley decided to amp it up a bit in the mid 40s, where they were like, we're going to do a ritual to bring even more in. So we're living in a world with like this intense concentration of demonic entities because of what they did in the 40s, as a result of what happened after the divine rule was killed off the planet. So they have slowly been reincarnating back onto the planet starting in the 60s. I hate to say it, but Elon Musk was the first one. He was born in, like, I don't know, 69. He was the beginning of the re-emergence. So like they all died off, and then slowly the light beings start to be born in. And it started, I hate to say, but it is true. It started with Elon Musk. He was the very first of a new movement that was going to be bringing the light back onto the planet. Even though he wasn't all positive, and maybe we're not all positive, I'm like Satan. Like people think I'm satanic because I'm Satan. Like I'm the Satan to Satan. So a lot of people think I'm demonic, but it started with Elon Musk in the 60s, and then James Casbolt was born in the 70s, And then there's a trajectory of influential angels that were born that I'm friends with, that I know since then. And then in 19 actually don't know when it was cut off particularly, but I believe it ended with me in 1989. I believe I was the last of a organization that was to reappear. And then everyone after 1989, a lot of them, it's a very dualistic bag of personalities after that. And it's always been a dualistic bag of personalities, but it was like Romanovs were quote unquote killed. And then in the 20s, it's like all these children were very demonic and people were worried. In the 40s, Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and Aleister Crowley were like doing it like 10 times, trying to get more demonic entities in. And then starting in late 60s, Elon Musk was born, then James Casbolt was born, and then there's like a handful of judgment angels, I would call them, perhaps, like judgment angels. Angels with an assignment over their life to kind of correct the wrongs of the past. And then I believe I'm the last one. I believe I am the youngest of the quote unquote judgment angels, whatever that means. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's evident to me, it's obvious to me. And then since 1989, it's kind of been like gearing up for the end times. I mean, in 1989, that's when they took down the Berlin Wall between West and East Germany. That was an event that was like a celebration of, we're not going to do this anymore in Germany, the German folk spirit. And the German folk spirit, which was a spirit that was highly celebrated in World War I, which was Alexandra Feodorovna was German. And so she wasn't Russian, she was German. So it was kind of a celebration of that, kind of like if it's not conscious, it was like an unconscious celebration. So these are all these energies of everything that's. So now it's like these people are really hanging on by a thread. And I would say, don't be mean to them. They're coming at you, maybe attacking you with like literally the truth. And I'm like, these are literally facts. It's like, you're attacking me, say like you're trying to attack me, but all they're doing is saying absolute facts. These are absolute facts. These are absolute truths. I'm absolutely a bitch that gets on YouTube and drunk rants. I'm absolutely a crazy Christian white bitch. I absolutely stirred the nest. I absolutely was a troublemaker. I absolutely did everything you're saying. So it's a little bit different now because the fight is not the fight. And you say pray for your enemies because you're like, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I'm glad that you are doing this. I'm glad that you're communicating with me. Even if it's like seemingly negative, I'm like, no, I'm just glad you're communicating. That's all. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I'm glad we're communicating and you're not telling lies. And I'm not fighting you. I'm not like going to the ad hominem level. I'm just saying, you sound like an idiot. I will like reap this harvest. I will like do what I can do to make the most of the event. But the event is these people are really coming in for their harvest and they're doing it in this weird way. They're doing it in this weird way. But it's important to understand like if someone's attacking you, but they're literally just stating facts, you're like, you're just stating facts. Thank you. And then there's no fight. And there's no fight. Oh, thank you. This is really resonating. Really good. The German folk spirit really resonated with me. Yeah, I have a whole book on it. It's true. It's a thing. Dazzer, so good to see you. Dazzer, so great to see you. So, yeah, these alien invader types, I would say they're like hanging on by a thread, but I feel like what they're doing is they're like about to throw all of their harvest under the bus. A lot of these people are like the leaders of a harvest that are weak, right? Jesus brings people to him that are strong. And then the Antichrist spirits bring people to them that are weak. And then they pretend like we're against each other, but we're not. We're not actually against each other because we all have the same end goal. So, be careful not to get mad or get all in a tizzy. In fact, it's like kind of friendly to have any kind of communication with them because the truth is you're just stating facts. So, we end as we began, right? It's truly like it's all about like love and relationships and just being normal and being nice. Being normal and being nice. Even if for them like being nice is being deceptive because what they're doing is like if you can be deceived, you need to be deceived. Because when these three men open this portal in 19 whatever, it's like they need to collect their harvest and they need to do that because we can't coexist with their harvest. So we end as we began. Like you need to collect your harvest. Now is time to collect your harvest. It's time to collect your harvest because we can't coexist with your harvest that you brought in. And they're taking the trash out. I'm not mad at them for taking the trash out. They're taking the trash out. They're just probably double checking with you to see if you're at the maturity to understand that we're not enemies, we're actually friends, and now they're here to take the trash out. Hope that makes sense. All right. Have a beautiful night. Check you later. Thank you.